People, deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for taking me in. I've been having some mad problems and difficulties with technology. People, I'm buying cameras, they're not working how I need them to be. I'm recording vids, and I've had to remake this vid because I'm trying to upload it, and I've watched it back, and it's like me talking. Like, let's say I'm talking about Santi Cazorla, it randomly goes, yeah, Santi, 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 Santi. Then is it. So I've talked for 20 minutes. It's only got 12 of them. It's a madness. I've packaged it and sent it back to Amazon. I've bought a next thing on Amazon, which should be coming tomorrow. But I'm having to persist with doing this via my laptop and using Zoom. So yeah, man, I know the visuals are never amazing on my channel, or not amazing right now, but it's normally slightly better than what it is. Right now we're talking via Zoom, and they've got a green screen feature. And one of the green screens I want to incorporate into my channels, and I've had for a while, is behind us. So at the moment, obviously, I know a lot of you get mad when I wear my PSG stuff and whatnot. I mean, I've got PSG, Barca, Brazil, England. They were given to me, but I've got Crystal Palace and West Ham shirts, and I never wear them. I like football shirts. I mean, the only shirts I won't wear is a Spurs team. And I never understood how tribal it was being until I read some of my comments. But I'm here again. Like I said, I had to remake this vid. So it's in a bit of it is just transfer gossip. You know how it is. 99% of this is nonsense and ultimately comes up to nothing. But if anything, it's a good talking point or good points for us to speak about. First and foremost, the Reims president has spoken about Axel Disasi, someone who is quoted as going to cost 15 million. You don't know he's 22. Allegedly, Arsenal have been scouting him all season prior to what's happened, and we made initial contact in late 2019 in relation to seeing the feasibility of signing him. So we've looked at him a lot. He's got a year left on his deal, 2021. Arsenal, Southampton, couple of Spanish teams are linked with him. Obviously, Reims have had a good season by their own standards and they've been good defensively in a good defensive structure, and he's been good as well. So I'm not too sure how good he is actually as a defender and how much can I discount his ability defensively at defending because of the system he's in. But from what I've seen, he is raw. He does like to play out from the back, and his positioning can improve at times. He enjoys the game a bit too much. He needs no license to try and contribute going forward, which is mad for a defender. But I think he sticks to his task well. At 22, you're never going to be the finished article. He's got a year left on his deal, so Reims are going to sell him and sell to the highest bidder. I think there's potential for him to develop. He's got good height. He's decent in terms of recovery pace. He's fielding at fullback before, which while I don't think we should be playing him there, there's also that. Obviously, he's played in a good defensive structure, so he knows how to defend, or at least is thinking better than a lot of these players might have been defensively. So, if he's worked well in the defensive system, Arteta is trying to make us better defensively. You'd imagine this is a good option for him to take. And obviously, him and Saliba, if they were to be a partnership in the Prem, I think their quality would shine. I do think you would obviously see many a times where they're having poor games and they do naive things. But I think together with Saliba coming in, Disasi, and a couple of players that I would keep at centre-half, Arteta needs some decent options. Football is football, and people are always going to, money's a big thing of this in this world. The time might come where we might have to sell Martinelli, and we'll, Barca, Munich, Madrid, all of the Juventus, all of PSG, the real top 5 big clubs or 4 clubs or whatever you want to call it, they'll come calling, and we'll do the same. We'll sell him to the highest bidder when that day comes. But the Reims president has said, as I speak, he's speaking about Axel, has little chance of going to Spain. We have more interesting offers from other championships. I'd advise you to read the foreign press and especially the English. It's like I said, if he's not being linked to if he's not being linked to Southampton, he's being linked with us. You can imagine he'll probably be linked with Man City and all these other teams in the near to distant future. Now, what does that tell you the Reims president is doing? First and foremost, he's playing on the media. Some of the reports might be nonsense, but it all does the job of driving up his interest in him and probably inflating his asking price, because if Arsenal are putting money on the table, other people are involved, we might have to pay a bit more and things like that. He said pay attention to the foreign press and especially England, so you'd be inclined to believe he's coming to an English club. Now, obviously, Arsenal have strong French ties. We've been linked with him more than Southampton, so I'd imagine he's arriving here. But you can't rule out Southampton or maybe a team that he hasn't necessarily been linked with. You look at Papa Gueye, who's allegedly going to be a Watford player. We know there's a lot of red tape. He wasn't, forgive me if I'm wrong, I never saw him linked with Watford too tough. It was Arsenal and a couple of other teams on the free transfer. And he signed, and he will be training in London, Coley, but it'll be at our neighbours, Watford. So, yeah, that just seems like an agent drumming up the interest. And obviously, as an Arsenal fan, that gives you slightly more confidence in getting the player. moving away from this, and Spanish reports have said Arsenal have no plans to loan Dani Ceballos for a second season, and they do not have a purchase option in their current agreement with Madrid. Well, we knew we didn't have a current agreement. We knew it was a £5 million investment in terms of obtaining his services on a temporary basis this season. We probably know he probably wants to move back to Spain. We hear a lot. 1 minute we want to keep him for a second year. 1 minute we want to make him permanent. 1 minute he wants to return to Spain and see what he can do at Madrid. Then it's, he wants to go on loan. I'm sure. Listen, Ceballos has got a lot to consider. There is reasons for us to try and get him. If we are working with a little budget, I think we need 2 midfielders. Do I think we're going to spend 100-odd million on 2 central midfielders? One that can create play and, drive and break the lines, and one that's box to box / can put a foot in and break play and is a bit of it, can play progressive football, but that's not really his job, and he's more box to box. And also we need our creative midfielder to come in and also be a bit more tenacious. We're probably one of the last clubs with traditional 10s in that you've got Mesut there. Mkhitaryan plays on the flanks, but he's more of a classic 10 or someone that tries to play like that for me. Obviously, you've got Emil Smith-Rowe, who's still learning at Huddersfield. I don't know if the club will say, do you know what, you need to go on loan to the Prem, or another year in the Championship or abroad might help you. Joe Willock, personally, I don't think the 10 role is his. I've seen him do it, but I just feel this is a step too big for him. I think he'll be good in the pivot. He's got good energy. He's got good legs. He's good at driving the ball forward. I think the pivot is his thing. If you don't understand what I mean is, how you've got Xhaka and typically someone, I think he should be competing to occupy one of the 2 roles. But, you've had several other managers. We've had Wenger's played him in Wenger more played him in the role I want him, but Wenger's used him in a 10. Arteta's used him. Emre has, and Ljungberg. So there's got, in the same way they've all used Granit Xhaka, there's got to be something Xhaka is giving or offers a manager. Same way Joe's got to be showing something. But obviously, what I think I would love us to go for Hosamaro of Lyon, but I don't think we've got the cash for that. So which, if we are linked with someone like Partey for 40 million or 40 odd, and we say, okay, cool, we've only got money for one midfielder. If he was going to bring in Partey and keep Ceballos on loan for another year, I'd say, all right, cool, because you know what? It's been it's not been the best of environments for a lone player to come into. He's had several different managers. The team's been a bit in disarray. Taking him a while to play under Arteta, but, would say he's turned a new leaf. If how it's gone so far under Arteta is to be believed, then you'd imagine next season will be different. He could be a starter, compete to play with Xhaka, because Xhaka seems to be the number 1 midfielder, or get in there. And that would allow us to have other money. As great as Ceballos is, Ceballos is a great player. I think he's still going to go off to have a good career. I still think he can establish himself at Madrid. But at this moment in time, I'm sure if you was to ask many Arsenal fans, if he left, are you going to cry? It's not going to be like that. And that's what it should have been. We should be in a case where we're begging. It's not all been his fault, but it should be a thing where we're begging Ceballos to stay for another year. Like, wow, he's been so amazing and stuff. And he's a quality player. He's not been a bad player. But what I mean by that is, you ask most Arsenal fans, myself included, how's Dani Ceballos been? Lovely footballer, technically sound. But you're missing something. If he leaves, yeah, it will make our midfield probably weaker because we've got less options. And I don't know if we'll bring in a creative man, and I think we'd need to. But I don't think anybody would really cry, sort of thing. And for Ceballos, he's got to sort his future out. And I think he has to accept hard truths. Now, he needs stability. 1 minute he's at Madrid, but he's not really at Madrid in that he's a bit part player. He's gone on loan at Arsenal. He might go on loan to Valencia, in which staying in Spain might be a good thing because you're under the eyes of the Real Madrid hierarchy and things more purely because, they're a Spanish club. They're more likely to be clued up on Spanish matters. They're more likely to have an emotional attachment to La Liga. They're more likely to follow La Liga religiously. You don't think these people at board levels and things, they go, oh, did you watch the game at the weekend? He's a player. You don't think there's going to be Madrid hierarchy like, oh, did you watch the Valencia game? Ceballos played well. Why is he on loan, sort of thing? That's the sort of thing. And like we all know, the best season Ceballos could have had at Arsenal is he's come here, he's dominated, he's helped us get Champions League. We're begging him to stay. You're looking at Madrid in that they're almost idiots for letting him go. I think he could be part of the rebuild, but I don't know how much they see him as that, because I think the hierarchy want to retain. This is just my opinion. I think they want to retain Ceballos because of the resale value and being, a player of some stature in the future. I don't think Zidane necessarily rates him. Zidane said he sees similarities in his own game. He's been on loan and he said he's had no contact with Zidane. Now, Zidane's got a bag of things to worry about at Madrid, people. Real Madrid would turn me bold. And to be fair, being bold might not be the worst of things considering how terrible my hair looks at the moment. But so he doesn't really have time for that. But think about it logically, people. If I'm a manager, and I'm sure you all agree, if I'm a manager, yeah, regardless, let's just say I'm Arteta now, who's gone on loan? Emil Smith-Rowe's on loan. yeah, I've got a bag of things to deal with at Arsenal, but I truly believe in Emil. I believe in his in his credentials to have a future here. Yeah, there's a loan manager. And I'm not saying I'm going to speaking with man week in, week out, but I'm going to have a young conversation like, yo, you know, you need to improve. Like, I ain't seen you do several things. If you want to have a future here, I still believe in you, but you got to do this. Or because Emil's been playing well for Huddersfield, yo, Emil, keep it up, man. In the summer, we're going to talk, you know. You're going to be part of my plans, or you might need another loan. Either way, consistent dialogue. You're almost out of sight, out of mind, and he's firmly out of Zidane's mind. I think Zidane thinks he's a good player, but there's something missing. I think Ceballos is his dream to play there. He's made no secret in that he's kind of going to go back there at this end of this season. So it's down to him. And, you know, he might be able to be given a chance there, because you'd imagine, you know, they've got several young Brazilian talents. They've got Odegaard, who's had a decent year. You know, they're talking about one in Highland and Sancho and Mbappe. You'd imagine they get 2 of the 3. There's a spot for youth to be there. Hakimi to come back from his loan spell at right back, potentially to fight Carvajal. Who knows what happens, because I'm getting off topic, but technically Madrid are going to have three right backs next season. They're going to have that guy, I forgot his name. What's the one they loaned to Bayern Munich? Apparently his loan won't be made permanent. Hakimi on paper has got a return, I swear, allegedly. And obviously they've got Carvajal, so a decision will have to be made. I can't blame, if Arsenal don't have any plans to loan him for another season, then I'm inclined to obviously believe that it's not for definite, but would bring in a midfielder that can offer what Ceballos offers to a degree. Like, I would love Szoboszlai, like a different player, but I think he can break the lines and stuff. I do think we need that. I would like to bring in Aouar and Szoboszlai, like completely different players, but same profile. You know, I want Partey as well. If we can't go for Partey, there is some other options. I would like Sangria, I can never say his name, of Toulouse. Allegedly, they only want 13 million. Even if he doesn't become a success, you can make your 13 million back on these players. So we'll have to see. Keeping up the theme with midfielders, though, and Mesut Ozil's agent has come out and said the obvious, really. Mesut has 1 year left on his contract. There'll be no changes in this regard. So what happens next, time will show. Mesut will be 32 years of age at the end of his deal, and will have a few more years in his career. Now, logically speaking, you know, I don't think it will happen, but I can't rule out the potential of Ozil staying another year. Ozil might be told by Arteta and management, yo, we want to keep you on reduced terms, but we want to keep you. That is one. I think Mesut keeps it moving. At the end of last year, I think he sees out this last year of his contract purely because, you know, a lot of players, maybe even Aubameyang stays put, depending on how the market reacts. I do think players could still leave, but, you know, by the same token, a lot of players might have cold feet if they're on the last years of their deal. I'm not saying Ozil's a money grabber, but, you know, even if he wanted to leave, the dynamic right now, we don't know the outlook of football. So he might say, boy, you know, in this climate, it's not worth moving. Nobody's going to really give me what I want. So let me stay at Arsenal 1 more year, try do a thing with Arteta, try get Champions League and say my goodbyes. Because I think when it's all said and done, Mesut's been a good player for us. I think Mesut could have been better. I do think to a degree the club failed at Ozil, particularly in his earlier years. But I think he's been a quality player. But the time and day needs to come. In an ideal world, as much as I love Ozil, I think he can help us, he should be moved on because his wages and, you know, there's not really a consistent sort of thing with him. Now, we've got to be fair. There's obviously been, you know, he's not seen eye to eye with a lot of managers and things. I just think he's not of the age to move forward with. We all know he's going to sell out his deal. There's no disrespect to him, or not to say he's a money grabber, but he's on 350 bags a week. At his time in his career, when are you really going to get that sort of thing, people? And I do think even if the club obviously want to move him on and would, but who is he going to go to? There's going to be no real push from the player to leave unless he's explicitly told by Arteta he needs to go. And I think Arteta is a techie subject because the wages takes it out of Arteta's hands. But I think Arteta wants to use him next season and utilise his former teammate. So we'll have to see what happens. I don't think no one's going to go for him because the teams that you know, when he calls it a day, he might go to DC. You hear he's got business interests in DC. I think the American way of life will be great for him. You can't rule out staying in the Prem. I don't know where, but it's a possibility. He could go back to, I don't think he would, but he could go back to play in Germany. He could go back to play in Spain. Do you get? There's also the Turkish stuff with his playing for Fenerbahce, with his Turkish ancestry, Turkish roots. Now his Turkish wife, apparently she wants him to play for Fenerbahce. You know, and you hear Di Maria's comments, wife's comments, and you know, your wife has a lot to say on a career sometimes. So there's a lot of things for Ozil to consider. I think he runs out his deal here. It's not really anything of a surprise, and you know, it's not that we don't want to move him on. Who's going to buy him? Like, he's not going to go to China because obviously he's probably burnt the China bridges, and he might go and not come back after some of the comments he's made in relation to politicians and stuff. A thing might happen to, but Yeah, it's nothing to surprise me with that regards, people, really and truly. Now, apparently, Rabiot, he's a player that was linked with us when he's at PSG, linked with us all the time. He's been linked with us again. Apparently, us and Manchester United primarily are trying to get him from Juventus, the two teams that were linked with him for a free. Now, Rabiot's another one. When you mention Rabiot, for me, he's a box-to-box, deep-lying sort of guy. He can, he's a very good technically, but something's missing, in my opinion. If he came, I'd be happy. I think he's a good player, but I think there is something missing with him. I do think he's a player that, rightly or wrongly, I might be wrong to say this, comes with a lot of baggage, really and truly, because it's always a lot of off-the-field matters. There's always a lot of matters in relation to his mother and the agency stuff. Do Arsenal need that? Of course, for him, he needs to get back playing. He's gone to Juventus, and ironically, a lot of their free central midfield signings haven't worked out. It'd be fair to describe Aaron Ramsey's time there. It's turned over a new leaf, but it'd be fair to describe that as indifferent. Emre Can's free transfer didn't work out. Rabiot's hadn't worked out. There's a lot of midfielders on Juventus's books, and they've been linked with Arthur. They've been linked with Ndombele, so that you'd be inclined to indirectly believe they're going to bring in another midfielder. So in which you could probably tell Rabiot probably needs to keep it moving. Apparently we tried to get him on. We're in the race to try and sign him permanently in the summer. Apparently we spoke with his mother in January in relation to a free transfer, a loan transfer. So there's got to be some sort of interest. We probably tried to get him on a permanent in the past, but whether it be terms, contract, agent fees, weekly wages, something hasn't happened, people. I do think he is a player that could prove potentially more expensive than worth unless Juventus are offering you a deal. I do think he's a player that indirectly, as a fan, because he might not, but as a fan, when I see the reports, I can only comment on what I see. I think he's a player that comes with a lot of baggage. And is that worth it? Of course, the French ties, the law of the Premier League, the law to prove the French boss that you're actually a baller, to prove people wrong that have written you off, the carrot of helping Arsenal get into the Champions League. There are plenty of reasons to potentially attract him here. If anything, I'd want us to more advocate us trying to get the loan sort of thing rather than permanent. But obviously, I think you should be looking to sell Rabiot for 50 million. I think that's probably too expensive for Arsenal on a player that we don't really know what we're going to get, despite how good he is technically, people. In which a loan fee, whether that's anything from the 5 million we spent on Ceballos or the 2 million we spent on Denis Suarez allegedly, could be worth it. You get him on loan. If he does well, cool. That might hurt us, because if he does well, other teams might be alert, or Juventus might say cool. But that's a risk you've got to take, because I think it takes 100-odd million to get us into a position where I think I as a fan could honestly, confidently sit here, and you don't know me, I don't do this capping and lying thing. Come on my videos and say, that sounds so weird, but come onto my videos and make my videos and say, yo, I think we're getting Champions League, people. Do you get what I'm saying? I think we need two central midfielders, as I've already alluded to, someone that can break play up and box to box. They don't have to be a defensive mid, although if they could be box to box and play there, that's great. They don't have to, do you get what I'm saying? It's got to be that. And I'd like a creative sort of guy. So that's two central midfielders, in which you'd imagine a piece that's 40, 50 million on the best of days. Arsenal clearly want to sign a centre-half because of the links, and I want that as well. So you're looking at, let's just say, who should I say? Let's just say Szoboszlai costs 40 million, even though I think it'd be less. Szoboszlai costs 40 million. Or let's say Aouar, because that was the one. Apparently, Lyon want 50, 60. Let's just say 50. We've put 50 million euros. That's 50. Partey is going to cost 40. So let's say that's about 90 or 100 now. Then, Axel Disasi spoken of 15 million. That's 115. If you want to go for Upamecano, that's 40 to 60 million. Do you get it? So it's going to take 100-odd million, in my opinion, to get us back. Now, of course, scouts can do their job. Scouts can do things. And I don't mind free transfers, but you get what you pay for. If you bring in, no disrespect, if you do Willian, Fraser, and you leave that, then you can't expect much in the season. I think Fraser's a good player, but he's only had one real top standout season. I think Willian's a decent player, but his statistics, he's not going to be the guy to score us goals. I think Willian is a better player than fans are giving him credit for, and people are up in arms about allegedly signing him. But you get what you pay for these sort of signings, people. I'm not criticizing Czech. I was gassed about the signing of Czech, but in hindsight, we bought a decline in Czech. Could we be stressed when he still had to listen? Czech was a better signing for Arsenal than people give him credit for. But could we be upset with some of the shortcomings? David Luiz has turned over a new leaf under Arteta. But, under the context is, could you be surprised when what David Luiz is doing? Because this is what you pay for when you do several things, people. So we'll have to see. Upamecano is also a centre-half that's linked with us, and just about any team that wants to be a league winner or things like that. His agent has more or less quashed a move in the summer, people, and they said, I don't believe in large transfers this summer, and I think Upamecano is a player who will demand a large fee, so that statement has already been made. Like I said, with a year left on his deal, it was spoken of anything from 30 to 40 million, with obviously the COVID-19 stuff, could lower his price tag. Now, we don't know how clubs are going to react to the market. Like I said, you hear a lot about swap deals and IOUs going to be done. But on the other hand, you're seeing big players, if not necessarily world-class players that are seen as carrying a big price tag. They're seen as making moves. So with that being said, teams will still be able to do things. So people could buy up on Upamecano. But by the same logic, could it be sensible to stay, people, if other teams have other areas to address, or they're not going to spend an outlay, they're not going to spend 50 million on him, but they're going to invest a substantial amount elsewhere? Obviously, it makes sense for him to stay. There's talk of him signing a new deal. Does he sign a new deal with, I don't know, a year or so, 2 years extension, same sort of release clause? That way he gives something back to Leipzig, the team that gave him a chance as an untested teenager, he secures his future for another year, or does he run his deal down, in which, regardless of the fee, Leipzig will probably sell him? Because could you imagine Upamecano last year of his contract, like Aubameyang and Saka, free to talk to whoever next year, January, people? Do you get it? And they got him for peanuts, so in terms of losing him for free, it wouldn't be an L. But considering they got him for a minimal fee, and they could make 40 to 60 million euros on this individual, it wouldn't make sense. And it goes back to my other question in that, if Arsenal was to go for the two midfielders I gave as an example of people of similar fee, then an Upamecano, you're looking at 150 million. And I don't know if we've got the outlay to do it. But what I would like us to do, again, I don't think centre-halves, for example, have to be expensive, but or midfielders have to be expensive. And I'm not criticising Pepe. And we all know it's not 70 million that just dropped on the table for Pepe. But, in the same way we've structured a deal for Pepe that it could go up to 70 million, could we do that? I'm not saying you should, and I'm not saying, must go out there and find one, but could the fans see the feasibility of us doing that for a defender? I don't think many of you would. And I think we've really got to go back to basics this summer. I don't think we're going to do all of our business right, bringing in every player, getting rid of every player. It's impossible. And, I want wholesale changes, but you don't want to weaken the body of the side. Like, certain players I think should be moved on and have no future. I actually think, depending on what happens, you've got to keep a couple of them. Like, you get it, people. Like, off the top of my head, you should really sell, without opinion, Socrates, Mustafi, Mkhitaryan, Mesut for wage purposes, El Nene, players like this in and around the team, people. But and there's many more. But I wouldn't advocate all of them leaving at once without replacements being brought in, because it will leave our squad light. And obviously, these wholesale changes are needed. And because of how poor we are as a side, and the youngsters coming in and a fresh start, it might not be a bad thing, but it can have a negative effect, because this isn't FIFA, people. So we'll see what happens in that regards. Allegedly, though, El Nene's agent has claimed the player has multiple offers on the table from England, Spain, and Germany. Apparently, Besiktas are keen to have him either on loan or permanently, and there'll be a meeting at the end of the season with Arsenal to determine his future. Now, I'd imagine them two clubs are in talks in relation to, like us with Saliba, can we keep, if the season continues, can we keep El Nene for that period? Which, Arsenal should honour that. And like we did with Saliba, we really should honour that. Or like with Ceballos, keeping Ceballos with us, we should honour that. Beyond that, though, I think it would be silly to give another year a loan spell, because I think he's contracted until 2022. El Nene, you don't want him wasting at the squad, but he's a player. You know what? If you're gonna loan him, you might as well just leave him in the squad at the Emirates and let him play them cup games. Let him just be a body in case something happens, people, really and truly. There's no point loaning him permanent or nothing. We did hear this from his agent before, that he's got offers elsewhere. We heard his dad say he had offers in the Premier League. If he's turned his Besiktas career around, because he's been indifferent. Turkish football fans are religious when it comes to football, so I can imagine how great it must be to play in that country. And if he wants to stay there, let's get this done permanently. We need some. And then it didn't cost the most. He was given a new deal for no reason as a fan. He's got a couple of years left on his deal. Let's kind of make it attractive to Besiktas to sell him. Of course, if there's offers from other Premier League clubs, I need to be seeing a decent fee for El Nene. If he really does have interest from all of these different nations and clubs in these nations, then it shouldn't be an issue selling him, sort of thing. Can't rule out Arteta obviously giving him an opportunity, but we'll have to see. what happens. And hopefully we can get him off the wage books, because if we can get him and Mkhitaryan, they're two of the most dead wood at this team. Maybe not necessarily because of ability. It just seems they're the hardest to shift, excluding Ozil. And apparently we've tried to sell Mustafi for time, and it hasn't happened. You see how I was listing 5 players a couple of minutes ago. These are other players that could be thrown into that. Do you get it? So we'll have to see what happens in that regards, people. Moving away from that, and I haven't seen this player before, but he plays for Basel, and his name is Eray Comert. He's a Switzerland international. He's an individual, plays for Switzerland, if you like it that way. Unless he's played for Switzerland, and I watch Switzerland when they play at international level, of course. Unless he's played and it's been one of them ones where you don't know you're watching him, then I haven't clocked him. I haven't watched the game to specifically take him out and say, yo, that's him. I haven't watched him for Basel. All I know is that he's a centre-half, and apparently we're interested in him and we're willing to challenge Turkish super giants Galatasaray for the FC Basel man signature. The only consistent theme I can see is that he's a defender, people. Now, I don't care if obviously I would love household names. I would love Upamecano. I'd love all of these things, but I don't care if a man costs 50 million, 100 million or 2 million. All I want is a competent defender. The art of defending, can he do that? Is he a consistent defender? So I know what I'm getting for 10 games. So I can have, not only Arteta and them people there, but the fans can have confidence in his abilities and his competency. So you've got competence, consistency, and his competence. If I haven't said that already, they're the 3 C's. I've messed it up, but the 3 C's I look for. How competent is he? How consistent is he? How confident is he? Because listen, you have to build up players' confidence. People go through highs and lows mentally. People have to adjust. But if you're playing for a top 6 team, you need a degree of confidence. I see a lot of players make mistakes. Let's take Xhaka. Xhaka has improved under Arteta, but he's someone that has an error in him historically at Arsenal. Not so much now, but historically. One thing I like about Xhaka is no matter how much the fans are getting onto his back or how he feels, he'll still attempt that 30-yard pass. Now, sometimes in general, logically speaking, if something's not working, you have to try something else. We know this. But for me, you need that confidence, because there's going to be tough moments at Arsenal. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get ripped. Teams are not going to break you down. You're going to face question marks. So you need to be able to see all of this noise and not let it affect you. And that goes for a lot of teams. That's why you see a lot of players in the Premier League, and I see it in general. I've seen some real ballers, people. You give them a ball, they can do everything. But mentally, they're not there. They're quite scared. They're quite timid. They're quite reserved. So they haven't been able to thrive in this sort of environment. Equally, there's average players that relish it, that move like it's 300 Spartans and let's effing have it sort of thing. They're on it, and they've had a career sort of thing. Mentality is everything, people. And whoever we bring in, regardless of the position, they need to have the confidence to be able to do this thing, people. They need to, because it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. You play for any top 6 team, there's hella question marks, people. He's overrated. The first people that gas you up, like Saliba's gonna come here, first game, I guarantee people. First terrible game he has. I'm not saying most, because most fans are logical, but people say he's overrated, he's this, that, and the other, because they've had it in their mind of next Varane, this, that, and the other. They're not seeing a man that's had his second full year as a professional footballer cut short, and has had a good season, but had many moments, and only 19. Potential is a serious problem in today's day and age. I'm going off topic, but it is a problem in today's day and age, and that people don't realize, get so caught up on what man's going to be tomorrow, they don't look at what they are currently. So they need to be able to do that. If we're going for him, then I hope scouts have done their due diligence. And if he's good enough, he's good enough. Again, every household name had to start from some sort of humble beginnings. And ultimately, without me watching him, could he do any worse than how we've developed, how we've defended historically? We need to make a decision over our defense, because we've got a lot of defenders. There's a case of quantity over quality. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards, people. Moving away from that, though, and I believe his name is Waleed1. Typing him on Twitter. I think he covered an AST event. I don't know the context of this event, but there was an event he covered. And if you can't find him, just type in the hashtag AST in caps and he'll find him. But he's a good Twitter account. He's always on top with the Arsenal finances. I haven't got them all to hand, but just certain things that caught my eye. Apparently, we still owe 144 million for our stadium, and we could look into a second mortgage. Of our 430 million stadium, 260 million was debt. The rest was from Nike and the Emirates. Apparently, ITV had a 10% stake. So you can imagine, the scale. Arsenal this is what makes it very, very amazing. And I do think there'll be a documentary on this, really and truly. I'm not saying Arsenal have gone on to higher heights, but it's nothing short of a miracle. For a number of years, we're still in the top 4 with how we've had to build this stadium. I genuinely believe that, people, sort of thing. Obviously, it makes sense you've got to kind of crowdfund. You're going to get external investors because of the sheer scale of this project. And, ITV, Nike, Emirates, these are all brands or businesses that wouldn't invest if they wasn't getting more out than they were putting in. It's business. You look at Delaware. Apparently, Delaware also provided money up front for long-term cater rights. Now, it probably was a hefty one for them to swallow, but, they got the rights to the Emirates. So I'd imagine they're the ones they probably have to give Arsenal their little cut, but they're the ones making the benefits over the match days. And have you seen how much these match day things cost? Over years, I guarantee that investment has been pennies on the pounds they've made, sort of thing. So it's no different. Apparently, over the last 3 years, we've spent a 300 million gross on players. We all know very few transfer fees are paid up front. It's only Arsenal's installments that gets laughed at and stuff. It'd be silly if all of these could you really think teams are going out there and spending 200 million and saying, oh, here's 200 million in your hand? It's not. It's installments and things. So we know that's the case. Apparently, Arsenal still owe teams 120 million, I guess, in relation to previous transfers. And of that 120 million, 40 million is due this summer. So maybe that means we have more of a fight in terms of selling players. And maybe, we bite the bullet and sell other players quicker than we normally would. I'm not too sure how that is going to develop, people. So we'll have to see. But moving away from that, I'm going to quickly whiz around to see if there's any other transfer news that we need to speak about. Phil Neville, who plays for Manchester United, has actually said, if I could have picked an Arsenal player to have played for Manchester United, I would have gone with Tony Adams. He was the best captain I played with for England. He was just unbelievable. And of course he was, and that echoes what his former manager said, Sir Alex Ferguson. He said, he would have loved to bring Tony Adams to Man United, and he was a Man United player in an Arsenal shirt, which, considering the stature of Man United, is a testament to Tony Adams. But I'm not gonna lie, he's an Arsenal man. He bleeds Arsenal. We're screaming for a centre half to come through the academy. When was the last centre half that went off to do things at Arsenal came through the academy? It was this man. And that's testament, first and foremost, to how good he obviously is. But it's also asks his question marks of how we look at the art of defending people, because, it's quite sad, really, that that's been the case, really and truly. I don't think there's anything else really to speak about, folks. I'm quickly whizzing. I've gone on that account. There was rumours of apparently Arsenal have slapped a 50 million asking price on Aubameyang, but I can't find where I read that, so I'm not going to bore you with that. There's nothing more to really add, so I'm going to get out of it. People, please enjoy whatever's left of your day, morning, evening, or whatever. Most importantly, please stay safe. On that note, though, people, DG, I'm out. Thank you for watching and rocking.